Hey, what's up, crochet cousins? Welcome back to another exclusive tutorial. My name is Adoma and I teach how to make cute crochet outfits every single week. Y'all know I've been silent for a week. Of course, I've been preparing something unique for you. Today's tutorial is a simple but cute pineapple dress or cover up for all sizes. This tutorial will be focusing on how you can make this cute crochet outfit and also how to adjust to fit your size perfectly. If you haven't tried out any of my patterns, there's a bunch of them linked in the description. I would also love to see your comments. Comment down below what you would love to see in my next tutorial. Now let's get started. For this dress pattern, I'll be using some acrylic yarn of the lightweight, a 2.0mm hook, a pair of scissors to cut off all the excess yarns, and finally some measuring tape. So this first basic chain for this cover up or dress pattern includes a total number of 280 chains for a size medium. It depends on the measurement you take for your waist, and I won't like to restrict you, but however you measure for your waist area, you should make the number of chain to suit that measurement. So I made my total number of 280 chains, and that will be the base chain for my waist until I proceed with the rest. After I make my total of 280, I'm going to make a basic slip stitch in the very first chain. So make sure your line is straight when you are doing this, because you are going to work downwards and you don't need your line to get twisted. So just insert your hook, pull through the loop, and then pull through the loop on the hook. So you just slip stitch just like that, and then make a total number of 5 chains. Skip the next 2 spaces and put a double crochet into the third. So that's the basic pattern for the very first section. So make sure you skip your total of 2 chains and put a double crochet into the following, and then we are going to repeat this pattern. Chain 2, skip the next 2 chains and spaces and double crochet into the third space, and that is the basic chain for this. So make sure you repeat this: chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, all the way around the chain of 280, and I'll meet you when you are done. So I'm done with my repetition all around the chain, and it's now time to join. So I'm going to demonstrate to you. Make sure you chain up 2, skip the next 2 stitches and double crochet into the third stitch. And now it's time for you to connect the chain. So to do that, you chain up 2, locate the third space for the very first chain 5 you made, and place a slip stitch there. So now you realize that the line is very straight, and that's what you need. If you are able to make this straight, you are fine to go, and then this pattern is going to be repetition all over. For row 2, make a total number of 3 chains, double crochet into the very first space. So just select that space and put a double crochet there. Chain up a total of 2, put another double crochet in the very same space. I call this the V. So after you create a V, you chain up 3, skip the next space and put a double crochet into the following, chain 2, and then another double crochet into the same space. So that is the repetition for this pattern. You are going to make a V separated by chain 3, and I'm going to do a couple of demonstrations before I skip. So chain up 3, skip the next space, double crochet into the following space, chain 2, double crochet into the same space, and that is how the repetition is going to be. Make sure you chain up 3, skip the next space, double crochet into the following space, chain up 2, double crochet into the same space. So you are going to repeat this same pattern all around till you get to the end of the row. Make sure you create your V in all the spaces, and I'll meet you at the end. So this is how my work looks getting to the end of row 2 after creating the V separated by chain 3 each. So that's the basic repetition for several rows. I want to show you how to end. So after you make your total of 3 chains after making the V, make sure you chain up 3 and then skip the next space as usual and put double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the following. So after that you are going to make a basic slip stitch, but first make sure you chain up 3 and then slip stitch into the very first chain 3 you made from the previous row. So as I told you, the repetition for this is going to be basic, the same thing as row 2. So make sure you chain up 3, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the V you made from the previous row, chain up 3, inside the V create a V by doing a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in that same V. So that's how the repetition is going to be basically for this section all around till you are satisfied with the length of the down detail of this cover up. So you just have to double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. As I told you, the repetition is very basic all around till you are satisfied with the length. I'm going to give you the information of the repetition, but I'll meet you at the end. For row 3, there's a little variation I would like to demonstrate. So as usual, make sure you chain up your total of 2 and put a double crochet in the very first stitch where you made a total of chain 3. So you chain up 2 again and select the second space for the chain 3 and put a basic slip stitch there. So that means you have created another V, another additional V for the third row. So next you are going to single crochet 2 times in order to move to the next V, and then we are going to make a total of 3 chains and then place a double crochet in the very same space of the V, chain up 3 once again, and then continue with your regular V in all the V spaces by putting a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. So you are going to make this repetition all over. Just make sure you make your V in all the V's all around till you get to the end of the row. So I'm going to repeat this, all the V's in the V's, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. We are finally at the end of the row, and after making a V, you chain up 2, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the next V, and then you are going to chain up your 2 and slip stitch into the very first V you made, and then place a single crochet in the space, chain up a total of 3 and then double crochet in the same V just to begin the next row. So you are going to repeat the V again. As I told you, just make sure you end well, in such a way that you move to the next V, create a V there, and then go along. Make sure you separate them by chain 3, create your V all around till you get to the end of the row, and you repeat this. As I told you, I'm going to do this repetitively till it's long enough. I'm going to provide with you the information of the repetition I made and how long I did. So I'll meet you when I'm done with the repetition. I ended up repeating a total of 42 rows. A little demonstration I want to give to you is that when I got to the hip area, I made the chains 4 instead of 3, separating the V's just to cause some little expansion for the hip area. Even though I didn't want the tutorial to be long, I didn't want to demonstrate that aspect, but that's how I worked it. And the length of my cover up is about 14.5 inch. It depends on the coverage you want for yours. Everyone has his or her preference. Remember that the coverage is from the belly button to the knee level. So the rest of the rows for this pattern is going to be the repetition for the pineapple detail. So first, slip stitch your way into the very first V and make a total of 3 chains. Double crochet into the same space, chain 2, and put a total of 2 double crochets in the same V space. So we are going to call this the shell design. So next you are going to chain up a total of 3, move to the next V and put a total of 7 double crochet in the same exact space. This total of 7 double crochet is going to serve as one pineapple detail for the edge of the design. So the rest of the repetition of the row is going to be a total of 2 shells in between each pineapple detail. So chain up a total of 3, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochet into the next V space, just like this. So as I said, the repetition will be 2 shells in between the pineapple detail. So after creating the shell, chain up 3 and create another shell in the next V stitch. So a shell is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So now the repetition for this pattern is that you make sure that you have 2 shell stitches in the V's and then followed by the pineapple detail. So obviously the next will be the pineapple detail, which is a total of 7 double crochets in the same V stitch space. So after chaining up 3, make sure you put a total of 7 double crochets. So after making your total of 7 double crochets, you are still going to continue with your 2 shells in between, and that will be the repetition, making sure that you chain up 3 and then continue with your 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets into the next V, and then you chain up 3 and then repeat the same shell in the next V again. Please, I want to give you a little disclaimer. This particular pattern, this particular detail can be adjusted, and you have to make sure that you have 2 shells in between each pineapple, because we will be separating and working on the pattern separately. I realized that my V was not really perfect when I separated them, so I made sure that with the particular sides I placed 3 shells instead of 2. So for the side and side I placed 3 shells instead of 2, and that's how my repetition was. But if you get if you are within the multiples of 3, you should not worry, because basically you need 3 designs to work, which is 2 shells and then 1 pineapple detail, which is the 7 double crochets in the space. I hope you get it. But after I did my repetition, this is how I ended. I made sure that I did the 3 shells in between the sides. As I told you, mine was inaccurate, but if you do your repetition with 2 instead and you have issues, you have to unravel and make sure that you end up with the right amount, which is you must end with a shell instead, so that you have 2 shells in between each 7 double crochet. But if you had the same issue as mine, you can still improvise and make the shell 3 instead of 2 for the side and side. So now we are going to work the shells separately. As I told you, we will be repeating everything regular. But first, chain up 3. This is the last shell I'm going to create in my V. So a shell is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, as you already know. And then I'm going to make a total of 3 chains and then slip stitch into the very first double crochet for the shell. So after slip stitching, I'll slip stitch again into the very first chain 2, into the chain 2 space for the shell design, and then chain up a total of 3, put a double crochet in the shell, chain up 2 and then put 2 extra double crochets in the shell. So after doing that, I'm going to chain up a total of 3, as you already know, and then move right on top of the very first section. So this time I'm going inside the space of the 4 double crochets, and I'm going to put a single crochet there to connect. So this time we are not going on top of the double crochets, we are going to the spaces in between the double crochets, even though it's tight. So chain up 3, skip the next double crochet right there and move inside the space instead. So make sure you skip the double crochet, move inside the space and put a single crochet there. So chain up 3, do the same exact thing. Make sure you skip the next double crochet and then go inside the space after and then put a single crochet there. So this is how you are going to work repetitively for this pineapple detail. You should have a total of 5 pods or 5 chain 3 on top of the pineapple detail. So skip the double crochet, go into the space instead. And as I told you, you're supposed to have a total of 5 on top of the 7 double crochets from the previous row. So obviously, after you are done with this design, you are going to move to the next by chaining up 3 and putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, which is the same as the shell design. So that's how the repetition is going to be. Just chain 3, move to the next. As I told you, it's prudent for you to have 2 shells in between the detail, the 7 double crochets. So after creating the shell, chain up 3, single crochet into the very first space, chain up 3, skip the next double crochet, go into the space with a single crochet, and you are going to repeat this along till you have 5 chain 3s on top of the 7 double crochets. And we are going to do this repetitively till you get to the end of the row. So make sure you create a shell inside the shell, and then make sure you have your 5 chain 3s on top of the 7 double crochets. So I'll meet you at the end. So getting to the end of the row, I've repeated my pattern all around, and I just want to give you a little demonstration when you are getting to the end. So getting to the end, make sure that you chain up your 3 and then create your shell design, because basically the very last design you are going to do is the shell design, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space. And after repeating the shell design, you chain up your total of 3 once again and slip stitch into the very first chain 3 you made, and then slip stitch your way to the very first chain 2, and then repeat your pattern again by putting 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets to begin the next row. So just create the shell just like that, and then hop on to the next design by chaining up 3. This time single crochet into the very first chain 3 again, single crochet into the next chain 3 again, single crochet into the following, and then chain 3. This is going to be your last but one. So single crochet, chain 3, and then single crochet. You are supposed to have a total of 4 pods instead of 5, and that's how the repetition is going to be. So the reduction, there will be 1 reduction for each pod. After that, you chain up 3 and then put your shell design inside the shell by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So this is how the pattern works. You are going to repeat this all around. When you get to where the shell is, you create your shell. When you get to where the pod is, you chain, and then make sure that you have 4, because the very first chains were 5, so the next pod becomes 4. So I'll meet you at the end. So I'm getting to the end of the row. I repeated the pattern. As you can see, you make sure that you put a shell on top of a shell inside the chain 2 space, and I've already made my chain of 3. I'm going to put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, because that's the exact last design we do before we slip stitch to join. So after doing that, you make your total of 3 chains and slip stitch into the very first chain 3 you made for this row. So just insert your hook and make a slip stitch, and then slip stitch again to the chain 2 space for the shell, chain 3, and then double crochet into the space, chain 2, and then add another 2 double crochets to create the shell. So after you do that, you are going to make a total of 3 chains just to hop on to the next design. So just put your single crochet in the very first pod, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the next, chain 3, and then single crochet into the next. So now you have a total of 3 ports. The previous one was 4, now it has reduced to 3, and that's the effect we need for this pineapple detail for the edges. So after that, you make a total of 3 chains, and then as usual, create your shell in the chain 2 space by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. So the repetition is going to be the usual thing. When you get to the shell, you make your shell in the chain 2 space, and then you chain 3, hop on with a single crochet in the very first space for the chain 3 of the design, chain 3, single crochet into the next, chain 3, single crochet into the following, and then chain 3, single crochet into the following. So you're supposed to have a total of 3 ports, as I told you, and that's how the repetition is. So I'll meet you getting to the end, and then I'll show you what to do for the next row. So getting to the end of the row, I've already placed my shell, and as I told you, always end with your shell. So after placing my shell, I chain up 3, slip stitch into the very first chain 3 I made to begin the row, and then slip stitch to the chain 2 space for the shell. So basically with this row, there's going to be a little bit variation because we are going to separate and work the pineapple into different sections or directions. So I would like you to observe clearly how I do it. So I'm going to stitch mark at exactly where I'll end. I'll end at this exact shell, the shell after the pineapple detail. So I've just stitch marked with my yarn, and I'll demonstrate to you what to do. So after slip stitching your way through the chain 2 space, you chain 3 and then put a double crochet there, chain 2 and then put another extra 2 double crochets in the same exact space. So now you are meeting the shell, the pineapple detail, chain 3, single crochet into the very first space, chain up 3, single crochet into the following space, chain up 3 again, and then single crochet into the last space. So now you have a total of 2 pulls, and the previous one was 3, so that means it has reduced. After that, you chain up 3 and then remove your stitch marker now, and you can feel free to put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into this shell space. So swiftly put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the shell space, and then you can now get ready for the next section. So after you do that, you turn over your work in this direction. So just turn your work over this direction. So you are going to work to the other side. So after that, you slip stitch into the space, chain up 3, and then put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into the shell. So basically, you are now working back and forth, separating the shell, the pineapple, to get this pointed feature you saw from the beginning of the video. So after that, you chain up 3 and single crochet into the very first space, chain up 3, single crochet into the next space. You now have 1 port for the pineapple design. Sorry for that. And after that, you chain up your total of 3 just to hop on to the next shell, and then create your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets inside the chain 2 space for the shell. So now you flip over your work again, and as you can see, as I told you, you are working the details separately. So now you slip stitch into the chain 2 space, chain 3 and put a double crochet there, chain 2 and put a total of 2 extra double crochets in the same chain 2 space. After doing this, you are going to hop on to the next stage. So to work the next stage, you chain up a total of 4 and single crochet into this pod, chain up 4 again, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. I know I did a chain 3, but you're supposed to do a chain 4 instead. So after doing this, you flip over your work and then slip stitch into the space again. So just put your hook through and slip stitch into the space, and now create your shell design. So chain up 3, put a double crochet in the same space, chain 2, put a total of 2 double crochets in the same exact space, creating the shell design. So now after doing this, you are going to chain up a total of 2, hop onto directly on top of the next shell and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So this is the last but one section. We are finally going to hop on to the last section for this detail, and then we currently reattach and finish off the other sides. So next, as I told you, flip your work first and slip stitch into the chain 2, chain 3, put a double crochet inside the space. So for now, you are not going to chain anything, you are just going to directly put a total of 2 double crochet in the next shell, and then basically you cut off your excess yarn. So this is how it's going to look. You are going to have this pointed feature, and as I told you, you are now going to reattach to each edge where you have a pineapple. That is why it was important to have 2 shells in between. So now I'm going to reattach, work my shell in that direction, and I want to give you a final demonstration, but it's the same repetition as I taught you just now. So make sure you weave in your excess yarn, is really important. And now figure out a shell, a pineapple detail with 2 shells beside, and then reattach to the very first shell to work your detail. So I'm going to make a slip knot and then slip stitch into the very first shell, and then work my usual thing as I just taught you. So first, slip stitch and make sure your yarn is weaving in automatically. Chain 3 and put a total of 2 double crochets. Chain 2 double crochets in the same exact chain 2 space. So this is what you are going to have, and then you are still going to do your repetition as I told you. Chain up 3 and then make sure you single crochet into the very first pod, and do this repetitively till you get to the next shell. So this time you are going to have 2 pods. The previous one was 3. You chain up 3 and then create your shell. So you are going to repeat this simultaneously, nothing else changes. As I told you, you cut off when you are done with each detail. You cut off and reattach to where the shell, where the pineapple is surrounded by 2 shells, and then you reattach to where the shell is. So I'm just not going to waste your time. I'll meet you when I'm done with the whole repetition for all the shells, and then I show you what to do next. So I'm basically done with the repetition for my edges for each pineapple detail. As I demonstrated to you, you cut off when you are done and then reattach to work each detail, and the detail also applies all over towards the back. So now it's time for me to work my upper portion for the dress to make it extra complete. The upper portion is going to include a repetition of pineapple details in the middle, as well as a Lolita type of bra cap. So I already stitch marked my work, and this is how I stitch marked. I made sure I figured the middle and marked that portion, and then this is how I figured my middle. Actually, I folded it into 2, marked that portion, and I counted 10 stitches spaces away. You remember that we had a mesh detail for this pattern, so I just counted the boxes to 10, excluding the middle. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So when I counted to 10, I counted extra 3 away, and I stitch marked that area. That is the same thing I did for the right side as well. I made sure I counted a total of 10 stitches away from the very middle I marked, and then I counted extra 3, making 13, and stitch mark that area. So that's how I'm going to work mine. It doesn't matter what size you are. This is basically perfect for size small and medium, but I'll leave extra information in the description. So after doing that, I'm going to cut and tie. I'm going to attach my yarn in the space I stitch marked from the right side, and then I'm going to work my stitches. So first, chain 3, move to the next space, the mesh design, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space, which is the shell design. So after creating the shell design, I want you to see this clearly. After creating the shell design, you are going to chain up a total of 3 single crochet into the very next mesh design. So this is how it's going to look so far, and then the rest of the repetition is going to be a total of 10. So chain up 3 single crochet into the next mesh design. So 1, chain up 3 single crochet into the next mesh design. 2, chain up 3 single crochet into the next mesh design. 3, chain up 3 single crochet into the following. 4, there's the 5th one, so 5, and then sorry for that, 6, 1 2 3 7, and then this is going to be the 8th one, 8, 1 2 3, and this is the 9th one, 9, and then 1 2 3, this is the final one, 10. So now, as I told you, apart from the very first chain 3 we made connecting from the shell, you must have a total of 10 in between. So after that, you are going to create your next shell, but first remove your stitch marker and chain up 3 again. Hop on to the very middle where you remove the stitch marker and place your shell design, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact mesh design. So after doing that, you just chain up a total of 3 and put a single crochet into the next space. So after you do this, the rest of the repetition, you should have a total of 10 chain 3s running across until you get to the end. So I'm going to leave you here and I'll meet you at the end of the row. So I made my total of 10 chains after connecting. After doing this, I'm going to chain up 3 and put my total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets from where I removed the stitch marker, and then I'm finally going to end with a double crochet in the very last mesh design. So that's how this repetition is going to be. So after you do that, you flip your work just like how I just did. You're going to turn your work over and then you are going to work your stitches. So to do that, you always start with a chain 3 and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space, which is the same as the shell design. So after doing this, we are going to chain up a total of 3, move to the very first, not this same space but the next one, and put a single crochet there, chain up 3, single crochet into the next, chain up 3, single crochet into the following. So you are supposed to have a total of 9 chain 3s across until you move to the next shell. So I'll meet you when I'm done with my chain, and then we continue from there. As I told you, you are supposed to have a total of 9, excluding the chain 3 that connects. So I made sure I counted 9, and now I'm going to chain up 3 and do my shell for the middle shell. So to do that, you are going to place your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the middle shell, and then you are going to chain up 3 again and continue with your design. So this exact chain 3 does not count as the chains that I've been making in between. Just take note of this, but you are supposed to have a total of 9 excluding that chain, just like this side, and I'm going to meet you at the end. So finally at the end, I've already flipped over my work and I'm going to work the next row, which is row 3. So to begin, you chain up 3, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets into the very first shell. So after doing this, you are going to hop on by chaining 3 and single crocheting into the very pod, not that exact pod. Don't get confused. So after you do that, you chain 3, single crochet, chain 3 to you have a total of 8. The previous one was 9, so the reduction is always by 1. So I'll meet you when you are done with your total of 8 chain 3s, and then I'll show you what to do next. So now we have our total of 8 chain 3s in between. After doing that, you chain up 3 and then make your total of 2 double crochets inside the space, chain 2, another 2 double crochet inside this space. This time we are going to chain up an extra 2 again and put a total of 2 double crochets. So this time the shell has 2 spaces instead of just 1. So after you do that, you are going to do your repetition. Make sure you chain up 3, single crochet into the next pod, and then do your repetition till you have 8 chains, and then do your shell as well, and make sure you end with a double crochet. So I'll meet you when I'm done with the same repetition I just taught you, and then we continue from there. So I am done with my row 3, and now you are going to flip over and then chain up a total of 3 as usual to begin. Create your shell in the chain 2 space of the previous shell, and then continue to make your chains until you have a total of 7 chain 3s. So as I told you, this chain 3 does not count as the middle chains. So after you single crochet, you chain 3, single crochet till you have a total of 7, and then we hop on to the next shell. Get into the middle shell, chain up 3 and hop on into the very first chain 2 with a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same exact space. Now we are going to have this shell opening for the side. Chain up a total of 2, hop on to the next shell, chain 2 space, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same exact space. So this time you have 2 shells separated by chain 2 in the middle. So you are going to do the repetition all along the other side, and then make sure you end with a double crochet. So I'm done with the repetition and I've already made my shell. So we are moving to the next section. As I told you, you are going to repeat the same chain 3, nothing else. It reduces to 6, and then you chain up 3 and hop on to the very first shell. You put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the very first shell space. Now with the middle where the separation of the shell is, you chain up a total of 4, single crochet into the middle of the space, chain up a total of 4 again, and then put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets into the next chain 2 space for the shell, which is the side shell. So after doing this, you are going to do your repetition again, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3 to you have a total of 6 pods, and then you make sure you end with your double crochet, chain 2 double crochets, and then your final double crochet. So I'll meet you at the end of the row and I'll show you what to do next. So I've gone back and forth, and I'm now at the place where I have a total of 5 pods, as you can see clearly. So I'll be showing you exactly what I do in the middle for now, because the repetition is basically the same. So after that, you chain up a total of 2, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the very first space. Now after you do this, you are going to chain up a total of 3, single crochet into the very first space for the chain 4, chain up 3, go over to the next space, single crochet, chain up 3 again, and then do your shell in the chain 2 space by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. So that's how the middle works. Now after doing that, you chain up 3 and single crochet into the very first space and do your chain 2. You have a total of 5, end with your shell design, and then finally end with your double crochet, and I'll meet you at the next midpoint. So now I'm left with my total of 4 pots after going back and forth. Now I'm going to show you what to do at the middle, because this is basically repetition. The only difference is that it reduces. So this is how my middle is looking so far, and I'm just going to hop on and do my design. So just chain up 3 and do your shell as usual, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same exact space. So now after doing your shell design, you are going to chain up a total of 3, move to the middle space of the 3 chain 3s you made and put a total of 7 double crochets in that exact middle chain 3. After making your total of 7 double crochets in the chain 3, and then do your shell by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same exact space, and then you continue with your chain 3s across till you reduce and have your total of 4 pots. And then make sure you end with your double crochet, chain 2 double crochet, and then make sure you end with your shell and your final double crochet. So now we are gradually meeting our shell. So as I told you, are going to repeat the shell inside and then a double crochet. So just chain up 3, make sure you do your shell and then your double crochet in the very last stitch. As I've taught you already, it's the same repetition, just the middle differs from time to time. So I already love how the design is looking so far. Even though we haven't gotten anywhere, we are making some progress, and you should congratulate yourself. So we are going to do repetition across till we are left with 1 pod, and there will be some few differences, but the repetition is very simple. When you are left with 3 pods, let me show you what you do to the middle. So when you are left with 3 pods, you make your total of 3 chains, and then you move to the very first shell with a shell. After your shell repetition in the chain 2 space, you chain up 3, single crochet in between the double crochets, as I taught you, the same exact thing I taught you for the edges of the pineapple. You are going to repeat the same exact thing. You are not going to move on top, you are going to move in between with a single crochet, chain up 3, single crochet into the next space in between the double crochets. So you are going in between the spaces instead. I just made a mistake here, sorry for that. So just move in between the spaces with single crochets, chain 3 single crochets, so you have a total of 5 pods, as the same exact repetition as we did for the edge. So nothing else changes. Make sure you are going in between, and that's what matters. So after I'm done with my total of 5 pods, I'm going to chain up a total of 3 and then do my shell in the chain 2 space in between the shell. And then I'm going to move in with my basic repetition by chaining up 3, single crochet, chain up 3, so I have a total of 3 pods. So I'll meet you at the end, and then we'll go back and forth, and I'll meet you at the middle again. So now I've gone back and forth, and I have 2 chain 2s, chain 3, sorry. So after that, I chain up my 3 and do my shell as usual in the middle shell, the shell beside the middle design, by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same exact space. Now after doing this, you chain up a total of 3 single crochet into the very first port, chain 3 single crochet into the next, chain 3 single crochet into the next, chain 3 single crochet into the next, chain 3 single crochet into the next. You're supposed to have a total of 4 now, and as I taught you for the edge, it reduces by 1 each, and then that's how the repetition is going to be. Very simple, right? So after that, you do your chain 3 and then do your shell on top of the next shell, and then that's how the basic repetition is going to be. I'm going to continue till I get to the end of the row, and I'll go back again and show you what to do when you are left with 1 port. After making your chain and shell, you are now going to move to the next stage for the next design. So you chain up 3 single crochet, chain up 3 single crochet. You are finally left with 1 port, and this is how it's going to look. Chain up 3 and then do your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the very first shell. Now you chain up 3 and then single crochet into the very first space for the chain 3s, and then chain 3 single crochet, so you are left with a total of 3 ports for the middle detail. After you do this, you just chain up 3, hop on to your shell design and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and then you chain 3, continue with the same repetition I just taught you to get to the end of the row. So you are now going to be left with 1 port, and that's when there will be a little bit change. So I'll meet you at the end of the row and then we continue from there. So now for the next row, we are going to do a repetition. So you chain up 3, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets into the first shell as usual, and then you go on and chain up a total of 4 single crochet into the very first space for the port, chain up 4 again and move right ahead to the next shell and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So this is what you're going to have. We are basically closing up the shell, and then we are basically going to chain up 3 single crochet into the very first port, chain 3 single crochet, chain 3 till you have a total of 2 ports. As you already know, we had a total of 3 from the previous row. Chain up 3 and then do your shell repetition by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in this shell space. So now you are going to do your repetition again by chaining up a total of 4 single crocheting into the space and then that middle space, and then chain 4 and do your shell, and make sure you end with your double crochet in the very last stitch. So this is the achievement you should have so far. This is the look you should have so far after this several repetition. So next you are going to chain up 3, flip your work over, and then continue with the usual thing, 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets for the shell. Now you are going to chain up a total of 3 single crochet into that very first space, chain up 3 single crochet into the next space, chain up 3, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets as usual. So now chain up 3 single crochet into that port space, chain up 3 again, single crochet into the following port space. So now you have a total of only 1. That means your pineapple is gradually closing up. Chain up 3 and do your regular shell design, and then you are going to do the same repetition I just taught you, by chaining up a total of 3 single crochets into the very first space, chain up 3, sorry for that, and then single crochet into the next space, chain up 3, and then move in with your shell design and make sure you end with your double crochet. So this is the look you are supposed to have so far. So now flip your work and let's work the next design. So as usual, make sure you chain up your total of 3, put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets as usual for the shell design. Now chain up a total of 3, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in this middle chain 3 space. So 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in this middle chain 3 space from the previous row. So you just created a shell in that space, chain up 3 again and move in with your regular shell by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. After that, you make your total of 3 chains, single crochet into 4 chains, single crochet into that space, chain 4 again, and then move to the next shell with your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So now we are going to do the same repetition I just taught you, 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the chain 3 space in the middle, and I'll meet you exactly at the end of the row. So I ended my row with a double crochet, and we are beginning the next row. You chain your 3, put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the shell design or the shell stitch, the chain 2 in between the shell. So after doing this, you are going to chain up a total of 3, move into this exact space, chain 2 space, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, another 2 double crochet, chain 2 once again, and put another 2 double crochets in that exact space. So this time you have 2 chain 2s in between the shells. So you chain up 3, and put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets as usual, the regular shell. So this shell we did was just created, but this shell has been running through from the beginning of the top detail. So after doing this, we are going to chain up a total of 4 and then move directly across. This time you're not going to do anything, you're just going to move to the next shell and put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So just create a shell in the shell, if that's what you guys want me to call it. So this is the look you are going to have so far. Now you chain up your 3 and then do your regular thing by what I just taught you just now, by putting your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and then you end with your shell. So I'll meet you when I'm done. So I'm finally done. We are moving to the next row. We need to move quickly because you don't want this video to be extremely long. So after chaining up my 3, I made my total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in this first space, and then we are now going to work on this shell. You chain up 2, move to the very first chain 2 for this shell, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then another 2 double crochets in that exact same space. So after doing that, we are going to chain up a total of 3, move to the next chain 2, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. And now this is the look you should have so far. So after that, you chain up a total of 3 and then move to your regular shell by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets as usual. So directly chain up your 3 and move to the next shell and put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and the repetition is actually going to be similar for this detail, this exact middle detail. So we are going to do the same repetition as I just taught you, and then we are going to end with your double crochet. So I'll meet you. So I'm done with my repetition of my shell. and I'm going to work my next row. And as usual, chain up your 3 and do your shell design by putting your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the same exact space. So after doing this, we are going to chain up 3 and hop on to the very first chain 2 space for the shell. So you put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in that same exact space. So now you are going to hop directly into the space in between, the chain 3 space in between, and put a total of 4 double crochets in this exact space. So we are now going to move to the next and then put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So you understand why we just did this as we proceed to the next stages. Yes, so yeah, after doing this, you are going to chain up a total of 3 and hop on with your regular 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and then just chain up 3 again and do your regular thing again in the next shell by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So this is the look you are supposed to have now. You are going to do the same repetition as I taught you. When you get to the middle, you make sure you do your 4 double crochets. It's really important. So I'm done with my repetition and I ended with my double crochet. So let's proceed to the next row. So for the next row, as usual, you chain up your 3, do your shell again. It's always dominant. You can never avoid. So you do your shell by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and then you proceed to the next step. So you are going to chain up a total of 3 and do your shell again in the very first chain 2 by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space. So now please look at this carefully. You are going to go in between the space, the very first space there, and put a total of 2 double crochets. Even though it's tight, please put a total of 2, and now put a double crochet on top of the double crochet, the 4 double crochets you made in between. So just swiftly put a double crochet on top of each and now move to the next space and put a total of 2 again. So now you just made an extra 2 addition in those 2 spaces. So you are supposed to have a total of 8 double crochets. So after that, you move to the next space. You know what to do. Do your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. The same shell repetition. So this is what you are supposed to have. You are having a little bit expansion for the breast area. If you are not aware, you have already started your breast cup. So yes, after chaining up 3, you do your shell as usual and do the same repetition I just taught you. You're supposed to have a total of 8. The only addition is that you put a total of 2 for the side and then you end the row. So I've swiftly ended my row. This is how my work is looking so far. So after that, I'm going to chain up a total of 3 and begin my next row. We are still working on the breast cup, and from this sector you have to be putting the dress on your body to see whether it perfectly fits for your front portion, because we have different variations. So after creating your shell, sorry for that, you are going to chain up a total of 3, move in to the next shell and put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So now you are going to directly hop on in between that space, put a total of 2 double crochets, and then continue with placing a double crochet on top of each double crochet till you are getting to the very next shell. So we are finally done, and now we are going to go in between the space and put a total of 2 double crochets. So now we are supposed to have a total of 12 double crochets, and then just directly hop on to the next shell and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in that same exact space. So chain up your 3 and then move to the next stitch, do your shell and do your regular repetition till you get to the next boob area where you are going to increase to 12, and then end with your shell and double crochet. So I'll meet you at the end of the row. So I'm basically done with this repetition. I'm finally at the end of the row, and this stage actually depends on what exactly you want for your boob area. We are just going to, it's all about increasing and decreasing to get the Lolita design or the bra cap design. So my yarn was actually finished, so I just reattached for the next section. So I just chain up 3 and do your shell by putting your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and then we are going to move to the next. We are moving straight to the next by chaining up 3. Moved directly this time on top of the very first double crochet for the shell design. So after chaining up 3, as I just told you, target the very first double crochet, place your double crochet on top. This time we are not creating a shell opening because we want to expand the Lolita pattern or the boob area to provide more coverage. So now after putting a double crochet, you are going to double crochet swiftly. When you get to the chain 2 space in between the shell, you put a total of 2 and then put a double crochet on top of each double crochet across. Now in between, this time in between that little space you have, you just place a double crochet there and then continue with your double crochet on top of each till you get to the end of the row. This time you are supposed to have a total of 26 double crochets for the boob area, so you increase from 12 to 26. So that's basically how the pattern is going to work. It depends on the coverage you want. Everyone's bust size differs. You just have to put it on your body so that you know the extent at which you should increase for your boob area. So yes, in between the space, you just put a double crochet in between and then put a double crochet in the next first double crochet for the shell, double crochet across. When you get to the chain 2 in between the shell, you put a total of 2 and then you put your final 2 double crochets over on top of the last 2 double crochet for the shell. So this is how it's going to look. So you are going to do the same repetition across. You just chain up 3, do your shell design, and then you chain up 3 and do your next shell design. This time there are 2 shell designs in between. Nothing else changes until you meet to the next boob area, and then you do the same repetition that I just taught you. So I'll meet you at the end of the row and then we'll continue from there. So I'm now at the end of the row, and this is how my work is looking so far. I just did the same exact repetition. So the next row, you just chain up your 3, flip your work over, and then do your shell design as usual by putting a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So this time you are going to work the boob area separately. You understand as we go on. So after chaining up 3, move to the very first double crochet, place a double crochet there and then double crochet along all the boob area to get to the end of the row. So I'll meet you here. So I place my total of 26 double crochet on the boob area, and I'm going to chain up 3 and continue with my regular shell design across, and I'm going to end here. I'm not going to continue because this is the portion where we separate. So I'm just going to flip my work just like that, and now we are separating the boob area. So now you slip stitch into the very first chain 2 space, and then you chain 2 and do your total of 1 double crochet in addition, and then you chain up your 2 again and put a total of 2 extra double crochets, creating the shell. As I told you, you are now working this separately. So after that, you chain up 3 and then do a double crochet across till you get to the end of the row, and you just create your shell and double crochet. So I'll meet you at the end of the row and we work the next. So the next row is basically going to be a reduction row where we actually get to reduce the boob area. So after chaining up 3, you just move to the very first space and put your total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets. So when you are done, you are going to do a basic reduction for the boob area. This is going to be the first reduction. So after chaining up 3, you are going to yarn over, insert your hook into the very first space, pull through. When you have 3 on the hook, pull through 2. When you have 2 on the hook, yarn over, insert your hook into the next space, pull through. When you have 4 on the hook, pull through 2 and pull through 3 loops. So you have basically reduced 2 stitches into 1. So you are going to double crochet till you get to the end of the row. In the last 2 stitches, you are going to perform the same double crochet decrease, so you have a total of 24. So I'll be leaving an extra information on the rest of the rows I made for the reduction. I reduced to 22 for the next stage, to 18, to 16, to 12, to 8, and basically 4. So just check the description, but the repetition will be off camera. So I'll meet you when I'm done with the whole repetition and then we work the rest. So I'm done with my whole repetition. I'm now left with a total of 4. This is how my boob area repetition came out. What you have to do is just reattach and repeat the same exact thing for the other side. So the rest now is going to be regular rows. So I just want to show you. You slip stitch and then chain up a total of 3, double crochet into the very first space, chain 2 and put a total of 2 extra double crochet. So now you chain up 3 and then hop on to the very first. Now, as I told you, I reduced to a total of 4. So you are going to maintain a total of 4 double crochets in the middle design, surrounded by the 2 shells just for the side and side. And that's how this thing is going to work all around. So I'm going to show you the number of repetitions I made. I made a total of 15 regular towards my shoulder, because I'll be working on the back portion as well to connect for the very upper part. So let me reattach, work my side, and then continue with my regular rows. When you get to 4, just continue with your regular rows and then meet me back as I work on what I work on the back portion with you, and then we basically see how this pattern goes. So I'm done with my other repetition of bra caps, and I maintain my regular row for 15 rows across. When you get to 4, I've already done one side from the back. I'm going to give you a demonstration on how I work the back portion to attach at the shoulder parts. So I started with something like a pineapple detail, but first I counted 9 stitches, 9 mesh design, separating the armpit, the waist area, and that's the basic thing I'm going to do for the other side as well. I'm going to count from the 4, from the very front. I'm going to count a total of 9 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 mesh spaces. So after I count a total of 9, I'm going to put my my stitch marker there, and then secure that place. And I'm going to count across the exact number for the other side, and then I'm basically going to work my stitches from there. So I counted an extra 7 across, and I'm going to attach my yarn there to work my back portion. So from where I placed my stitch marker, I counted 7 across, just like that, and then I attached my yarn, chain up 3 and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the very first mesh design. So after creating your shell, you are going to make a total of 3 chains, single crochet into the next space, chain 3 again, single crochet into the following, chain 3 again, single crochet into the next, chain 3 once again, single crochet into the next space, and then, oh gosh, my stitch marker just removed, but don't worry, chain up a total of 3, and the next space is when we are going to put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, like how you did. But when you count the chain spaces, you should have a total of 5 chains, including the one we just made to connect the shell design. So just place a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and end with a double crochet in the next shell. So that's how the back portion is going to work. It's kind of like a pineapple detail, just to get it going. So chain up a total of 3 for the next row, put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets in the very first shell, and then chain up a total of 3, move to the next space, not that very same space, single crochet, chain 3, single crochet, chain 3 again, single crochet into the next, and then chain 3, and put a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets, and end with your double crochet stitch. So just make sure you end with your double crochet, chain 3, turn over. You are now basically concentrating on reducing the pod. So far the pod has reduced by 1, so that's basically how it's going to work until your pod reduces to only a total of 1. So after chaining up 3, you single crochet into the next space, chain up 3, single crochet into the space. So this is when you have only 1 pod, exempting the chain 3 that connects the shells. So after that, you end with your double crochet as usual, and then continue with your design. So now, after chaining up 3 to begin the next row, you make your shell design, chain up a total of 3, and now into the middle space you are going to make a total of 4 double crochets in that same exact space. So you are basically going to maintain this 4 double crochets in the middle, surrounded by this shell, just like the feature we did for the front portion. Just to extend the back coverage. I know you guys are tired of bare backs and you need something covery, so I think this is the best option for you guys who want more coverage for your back. So after chaining up 3 for the next row, you are going to repeat, as I told you, the same shell and 4 double crochets. Just make sure you measure your back area, but I'm going to give you the exact total number of rows I made for this back portion. I just made a total of 28 rows of this same repetition, making sure I have my total of 4 double crochets in between the 2 shells separated by chain 3s, and then I'm going to connect for the front portion, but I'll just give you a little bit demonstration when I'm done. So just keep repeating till it's long enough, and then I'll show you what to do next. So after you're done with the repetition all over, make sure you measure your arm, and then you just single crochet to attach from the front portion, just like this. So I'll meet you with the final project. So this is the end product of my finished project. You can add an extra edging to make it more catchy, but this is how it's supposed to look. You just have to add some straps at the back portion to support your boob area and just for the side and side, but nothing else changes. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I would love to see your finished project on this beautiful cover up. You can follow me on Instagram, tag me in your post. I love you so much, and thank you so much for the amazing support.